Hey everybody, here we are. This is my first live stream. I'm going to be reading some stories from mythology every Friday, or every Friday that I miss my students and thinking about all of the days of school that we haven't had together face to face. And so I want to dedicate this first one out to all my current students, my 7th graders, my high schoolers. I miss you guys so much. I miss our JCLers. And yeah, it's a heartbreaking situation that we're all in, but I feel every day whenever I log in and I see your guys' faces on the other side of the computer screen, it's really important, and I'm so happy to be able to do this kind of stuff for you. So today we're going to be reading the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. This was requested by some 7th graders. They really like this story. I will say that it's a little dark because it has to do with the underworld, and some sadness and death, but a spectacular Hades town is inspired by the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. So I just want to drop some history on you mystery before we get started here. So the first reference ever to Orpheus was in the 6th century BC by a Greek author named Eurydice. And really it was just like 2 lines calling him the most famous of name for music and art. And so that shows us that he was, even by calling him more famous in this 1-2-line thing, that was his first reference ever. That means that throughout oral tradition, right, he must have already been well known. Now, he's not referenced in Homer or anything like that, but he is referenced in Virgil's Georgics as well as Ovid's Metamorphoses. And those are probably the 2 best well-known versions of the myth. Many ancient sources do accept his historical existence, which is, I thought, to be kind of interesting. He's known for being a powerful singer, very emotional singer. And his heritage is a little bit dicey. We don't exactly know, but most sources say that his mother was a muse and his father was either Apollo or a Thracian king. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you want to read Ovid, my favorite is the Lombardo translation. So I recommend picking this up if you're interested in reading the Metamorphoses. And if you're just interested in general mythology, love stories, maybe you have kids at home, maybe you have younger siblings, this is a great book, Delaire's Book of Greek Myths, and it has some gorgeous illustrations. So we're actually going to backtrack just a little. Let's go ahead and get started. Give me 1 second. The 9 Muses were daughters of Zeus and the Titaness Mnemosyne. Their mother's memory was as long as her beautiful hair, for she was the goddess of memory and knew all that had happened since the beginning of time. She gathered her 9 daughters around her and told them wondrous tales. She told them about the Titans, about the glorious Olympians and their rise to power, about Prometheus, who stole the heavenly fire, about the sun and the stars, and most of all about the greatness and wisdom of their father Zeus. The 9 Muses listened to her with wide, sparkling eyes and turned her stories into poems and songs so they would never be forgotten. Apollo, the god of music, trained them and taught them to sing harmoniously. He led the choir of the Muses through the halls of Olympus and over the slopes of Mount Parnassus, and their music rang so pure that even the songbirds fell silent to listen. Each of the 9 Muses has their own special art. Calliope and went to live in his father's kingdom of Thrace, and to bring the joy of music to the earth. His voice rang so pure, closer to listen, and even hard rocks rolled to him. Let's take a quick look at this beautiful art. So we see all the Muses represented with their skills. Now let's dig into Orpheus. Orpheus's music was joyful and gay, for he was in love with Eurydice, a sweet young maiden, and she loved him in return. On the day of their wedding, his song swept on a snake and sank into the ground, dead of its poisonous bite. Hermes gently closed her eyes and led her away to the underworld. No more songs came from Orpheus's throat. No more tunes rang out from his lyre. All joy had gone out. Living man had ever done before. He went down to the realm of the dead to beg for the return of his beloved. His music had the power to move hard rocks. It might also move the cold heart of Hades. Hope gave him back his songs, and playing and singing, he walked down the dark, steep path. His silvery voice floated down through the dark like a gentle summer breeze, and its magic moved the iron gate of Hades. They sprang open and let him in, and Cerberus, the three-headed watchdog, lay down at his feet to let him pass. The whole dark of the underworld stilled and listened to Orpheus's music as he entered the realm of the dead, singing about his great love, begging to have his Eurydice back. The fluttering souls hushed. Those condemned to eternal pain stopped groaning, and their torturers, though avenging furies, dropped their whips and waters of blood. Hades, the pitiless king of the dead, sat back on his marble throne with Queen Persephone at his side. Even he was so moved by the music that tears rolled down his sallow cheeks, and cold Persephone sobbed. Her heart was so touched that she turned to her husband and begged him to let Eurydice go back to the sunny world above. Hades gave his consent, but he made one condition. Orpheus must not look back at his bride before they reached the realm of the living. She would walk behind him. But if he turned and looked at her, she must return to the underworld. Overcome with joy, Orpheus started up the path, and as his music faded into the distance, gloom again descended over the underworld. The way was long, and as Orpheus walked on and on, doubt began to creep on in his mind. Had Hades deceived him? Were the sounds he heard behind him really Eurydice's footsteps? He had almost reached the upper world, and he could already see a dim light ahead. When he could bear his doubts no longer, he had to turn back and see if she was really there. He saw her sweet face, but only for an instant, for again Hermes appeared at her side. He turned her about and led her back to the dark gloom below. Faintly, Orpheus heard her whisper farewell. He had lost her forever because of his lack of faith. Orpheus never again found joy on earth. He wandered into the wilderness to grieve in solitude. He sang, but now his songs were so mournful that tears trickled down the cheeks of wild beasts, and the willow trees wept. A band of wild nymphs stormed the woods, shouting for Orpheus to join them. They yelled and carried on so loudly that they could not hear his silvery voice touched by its magic. They wanted him to dance with them, but he had no heart for their revelry. And in a fury, they threw him from its dead lips as he floated down the open sea. The muses grieved over him. They searched the sea until they found a body on the shores of the island of Lesbos. There they gave him a proper funeral, and at last he could rejoin his beloved Eurydice as a flitting ghost in the underworld. I know that was a bit of a sad one to start us off, but we'll do some more happier ones. I guess that's kind of the thing with Greek myths, though. They are a bit dark. Now, I want to just finish up with this one other page that I really love. Looking at this tree here. So the muses sing not only of the gods and of the spirits from Mother Earth, but also of great kings and heroes, descended all from mighty Zeus. The tales of heroes and brave men still ring in our ears as we listen to the muses sing. So here we see. In the coming weeks, I'll do more of these and talk more of these heroes of mythology. And if you have any requests for next week, go ahead and comment in this video below.